Welcome back to our channel, Coin History Vault. These Lincoln penny 1-cent coins make people rich. Let's find out why. Don't miss out one of these. Who know a sigil coin make you rich? Let's start this. Coin 1. Today we are talking about a penny that most people would walk right past without a second look, and that's exactly why it's dangerous to ignore. This tiny 1-cent coin could be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or even your pocket right now, and some collectors have paid serious money for the right example. I'm talking about the United States of America Lincoln penny from 1963 with the D mint mark. A coin that looks ordinary, until you really know what to look for. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'll show you why this penny matters, what hidden details can make it valuable, and which rare mistakes collectors fight over at auctions. At the end, I'll tell you the real market prices people are actually paying, not guesses, not hype, just facts. First, let's actually look at the coin. Bring up a clean close-up of the front. You see Abraham Lincoln facing right, strong and serious, just like he's been on the penny since 1909. Under the date, look closely. That small letter D means this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. In 1963, millions of pennies came out of Denver, but only a small percentage survived in high condition, and even fewer have the special traits collectors hunt for today. Now flip the coin over. This is the classic wheat reverse design. Two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This design ended in 1958, right? That's what many people think. But here's where confusion starts. Some people mix up dates, and that's why errors and transitional pieces get so much attention. When something doesn't line up the way it should, collectors pay attention. Zoom in on the date. Look at the numbers. On some 1963 D pennies, the date appears slightly doubled, especially on the 3 or the 9. This is not damage. This comes from a doubled die during the minting process. When the die shifted just a little, it created a second image that's now frozen in metal. These are the kinds of mistakes the mint never planned to release, but once they're out there, they can never be taken back. Now check the letters in Liberty and In God We Trust. On valuable examples, the letters may look thicker or slightly shadowed. This is another sign of a doubled die. A slow pan across the text really helps viewers spot it. Most people never notice these details because they're not looking for them. Here's another big one. Color. A 1963 D penny should be copper. But some examples have a different tone, slightly lighter or slightly off. That can point to an improper alloy mix or unusual planchet issues. These are rare, but when confirmed by grading experts, they become collector favorites. Condition is everything with this coin. Show a side-by-side comparison. On one side, a worn penny with scratches and dark spots. On the other, a sharp, red-brown example with clean details. The difference in value between those two can be shocking. High-grade coins with original luster are the ones that bring real money. Here's a fun historical detail. 1963 was a tense and emotional year in American history. The country was changing fast, and these pennies were passing through millions of hands during that time. Every coin is a tiny piece of that moment. Collectors love that connection to history. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever actually looked at your pennies with a magnifier? Or do they just disappear into change jars and couch cushions? Because this is exactly how rare coins get missed. Before we talk about prices, here's one last thing to watch for. Off-center strikes. If Lincoln's face looks slightly pushed to one side, and part of the design is missing, that's a mint error. These errors are dramatic, easy to see, and highly collectible. Alright, let's talk real numbers. A normal circulated 1963 D Lincoln penny is usually worth just a few cents. But a high-grade example in uncirculated condition can sell for several dollars. Verified double die or major error coins have sold at auction for hundreds of dollars, depending on strength and condition. Exceptional certified examples with strong eye appeal have reached auction prices in the low four-figure range. These are real sales, backed by grading services and auction records. So now I want to hear from you. Do you own a 1963 D penny? Have you ever found an error coin in your change? And which Lincoln penny would you love to add to your collection someday? This tiny coin proves one thing. You don't need gold or silver to find something special. Sometimes history, rarity, and value are hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to the channel for more hidden coin treasures. And don't forget to check out the next video, because the next coin we're covering has shocked even longtime collectors. Coin 2, we are talking about a penny that many people think is boring, common, and not worth a second look, and that belief has caused some incredible finds to be missed. The 1966 Lincoln 1-cent coin is one of the sneakiest coins in American history, because under the right conditions, this ordinary-looking penny can be surprisingly valuable. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to show you why the 1966 Lincoln penny is different, what strange mistakes the mint made that year, and which tiny details can turn a simple cent into a collector's prize. At the end, I'll share the real market prices collectors are paying today, based on actual sales. Let's look at the coin up close. Bring in a tight shot of the front. You see Abraham Lincoln facing right, calm and familiar. The date reads 1966, and here's the first unusual thing. There is no mint mark. No D, no S, nothing. For many people, that feels wrong. But in 1966, the U.S. Mint intentionally removed mint marks to stop coin hoarding. Every 1966 penny was struck in Philadelphia, even though it doesn't say so. Now flip the coin over and hold the camera steady. You see the Lincoln Memorial, detailed columns, and the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside. This design was used for decades, but the 1966 version has some very specific quirks. Collectors watch closely. Here's where it gets interesting. In the mid-1960s, the mint was under extreme pressure to produce coins fast. America needed change, and mistakes started slipping through. Zoom in on the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Some 1966 pennies show doubled letters, especially on the word "trust" and on the date. This isn't where. This comes from a double die, where the design was impressed twice slightly out of alignment. Another thing to check is the edges and overall strike. Some 1966 pennies were weakly struck, while others were unusually sharp. High-quality strikes with full details are much harder to find than you'd expect, and collectors pay attention to that. Now look at the color. This penny should be a rich copper tone. Some examples appear lighter, darker, or uneven. That can signal planchet errors or improper metal mixtures. These errors are rare, but when verified, they instantly boost collector interest. Here's a fun fact most people don't know. The 1966 penny is part of a special no-mint mark era that only lasted a few years. It represents a moment when the mint tried to control human behavior by changing the coin itself. That story alone makes it fascinating to collectors. Before we talk value, here's a cliffhanger detail many people miss. Look closely at the spacing of the letters in America on the reverse. Some coins show unusual spacing or slight distortions. These subtle variations can separate an ordinary coin from one collectors want badly. Now let's talk real numbers. A heavily circulated 1966 Lincoln penny is usually worth just face value. But an uncirculated example with strong luster can sell for several dollars. Certified double die or major error coins have sold at auction for hundreds of dollars. High-grade red examples graded by top services have reached auction prices in the high three-figure range, depending on condition and eye appeal. These are real market results, not guesses. So now I want to hear from you. Do you own a 1966 penny? Have you ever checked one under a magnifier? And which Lincoln penny do you think is the most underrated? This coin proves that even modern pennies can hide serious value. Small details matter. History matters. Condition matters. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more coin stories just like this one. And don't forget to watch the next video, because the next penny we cover has confused collectors for decades. Coin 3, we are talking about a penny that most people have already spent without thinking twice, and that could be one of the biggest mistakes a coin collector can make. The 1970 D Lincoln 1-cent coin looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and sounds ordinary when it hits the table. But a small detail hiding in plain sight has made certain examples of this penny sell for shocking amounts of money. Give me a few minutes, because I'm going to show you what makes the 1970 D penny special, how to spot the rare versions collectors fight over, and why one tiny design detail can mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth serious cash. At the end, I'll share real market prices and auction results, so you know exactly what people are paying today. Let's put the coin on screen. Start with a clean close-up of the front. You see Abraham Lincoln facing right, just like millions of other pennies. The date reads 1970, and just below it is the letter D, meaning this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. That's why so many valuable examples go unnoticed. Now slowly zoom in on the date. This is where things change. On certain 1970 D pennies, the numbers in the date appear slightly doubled, especially the 7 and the 0. It's subtle. You won't see it without good lighting and a magnifier. But once you notice it, you can't unsee it. This comes from a double die error, created when the coin design was impressed more than once during the minting process. Shift the camera to the words "In God We Trust." Some rare examples show doubling here too. The letters look thicker, almost like a shadow is following them. This is not damage and not wear. It's a genuine mint error, and collectors pay close attention to it. Flip the coin over and bring the camera in tight. You see the Lincoln Memorial, with the tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside. On high-quality coins, every column is sharp and clear. On valuable examples, the strike is strong and the details pop. Weak strikes are common for this year, which makes fully detailed coins harder to find. Here's a detail many people miss. In 1970, the mint was transitioning materials and improving production methods. While most pennies were copper, planchet quality varied. Some coins show unusual color, lighter or darker than normal. When these are confirmed as mint-related issues, collectors get very interested. Now for a cliffhanger detail that separates beginners from experienced collectors. There is a famous 1970 small date and large date difference, especially well known in Philadelphia issues, but Denver coins can still show subtle date variations. Comparing your coin to a known example side by side can reveal differences most people never notice. Let me ask you something. Have you ever compared two pennies from the same year under a magnifier? Because once you do, you realize how different they can actually be. Alright, let's talk real value. A worn 1970 D penny in circulated condition is usually worth face value. An uncirculated example with strong luster can sell for a few dollars. Verified double die examples and major error coins have sold at auction for hundreds of dollars. High-grade red coins certified by top grading services have reached auction prices in the high three-figure range, depending on condition and eye appeal. These prices are based on real sales, not rumors. So now it's your turn. Do you own a 1970 D penny? Have you ever checked one closely, or is this the first time you're hearing about these errors? And which Lincoln penny do you think is the most underrated of all time? The 1970 D Lincoln penny proves that valuable coins don't always look special at first glance. Sometimes the rarest details are the smallest ones. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to the channel for more hidden coin treasures. And don't forget to watch the next video, because the next penny we're covering has surprised even veteran collectors. Coin 4. We are talking about a penny that almost everyone has held, almost everyone has spent, and almost no one has ever truly checked. The 1974 Lincoln 1-cent coin looks so normal that it practically disappears in your hand. And that's exactly why some of these pennies have quietly turned into collector surprises worth far more than 1 cent. Stick with me, because in the next few minutes I'll show you what makes the 1974 penny special, the mint mistakes that changed its value, and the small details that collectors search for every day. At the end, I'll tell you the real market prices these coins are bringing at auction. based on actual sales. Let's put the coin on screen. Start with a close-up of the front. You see Abraham Lincoln facing right, steady and familiar. The date reads 1974. Now look just below the date. Some coins have a D mint mark, meaning Denver. Some have an S, meaning San Francisco. And some have no mint mark at all, meaning Philadelphia. Right away, you have three different versions of the same coin, and that matters to collectors. Now flip it over slowly. You see the Lincoln Memorial, with its clean lines and the tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside. A slow pan across the columns helps show how sharp or soft the strike is. In 1974, many pennies were weakly struck, so coins with full, crisp details are harder to find than most people realize. Here's where things get interesting. Zoom in on the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." On certain 1974 pennies, you can spot doubled lettering. It's subtle, but once you see it, it stands out. This comes from a double die error, created during the minting process when the design wasn't aligned perfectly. These errors were never meant to leave the mint, but once they did, collectors took notice. Now check the date closely. Some examples show doubling on the numbers, especially the 7 and the 4. This is one of those moments where a magnifying glass changes everything. A penny that looked ordinary a second ago suddenly tells a very different story. Here's a fun detail many people don't know. The 1974 penny was made during a time when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with metals. Rising copper prices had officials worried. That led to testing different compositions, including aluminum cents that were never officially released. While standard 1974 pennies are copper, that experimental history adds serious intrigue to this year. Before we talk value, here's a cliffhanger detail. Look at the overall color of the coin. Some 1974 pennies appear darker, lighter, or uneven in tone. In rare cases, this can point to planchet errors or improper alloy mixtures. When these are confirmed by grading services, collectors pay attention fast. Let me ask you something. Have you ever compared two pennies from the same year side by side? Because once you do, you realize how different they can be, even when they're supposed to be identical. Now let's talk real numbers. A heavily circulated 1974 penny is usually worth face value. An uncirculated example with strong luster can sell for a few dollars. Certified double die errors and major mint mistakes have sold at auction for hundreds of dollars, depending on strength and condition. High-grade red examples graded by top services have reached auction prices in the high three-figure range. These are real results, not hype. So now I want to hear from you. Do you own a 1974 penny? Have you ever found an error coin in your change? And which Lincoln penny would you love to add to your collection someday? The 1974 Lincoln penny proves that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's hiding in tiny details most people never look at. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to the channel for more hidden coin discoveries. And don't forget to watch the next video, because the next penny we're covering has a history that still surprises collectors today. Coin 5. We are talking about a penny that many people still have in their pockets right now, and most of them have no idea it could be worth far more than 1 cent. The 1980 Lincoln penny is a perfect example of a modern coin that hides its secrets well, and if you know what to look for, this ordinary-looking coin can suddenly become very interesting. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to show you why the 1980 penny deserves attention, the rare mistakes that make collectors stop and stare, and the small details that can turn this everyday coin into a real collector piece. At the end, I'll share the real market prices these coins are actually selling for. Let's get the coin on screen. Start with a clean close-up of the front. You see Abraham Lincoln facing right, familiar and calm. The date reads 1980, and just below it is the letter D, meaning this penny was struck at the Denver Mint. At first glance, it looks just like countless other pennies from the late 20th century. That's exactly why people overlook it. Now flip the coin over and hold the shot steady. You see the Lincoln Memorial, with its long columns and the tiny seated Lincoln in the center. A slow pan across the design shows how strong or weak the strike is. In 1980, many pennies were struck quickly, and that sometimes resulted in softer details. Coins with sharp, well-defined columns are harder to find than you might think. Here's where things get interesting. Zoom in on the date and the word Liberty. Some 1980 pennies show signs of doubled lettering. It's subtle. The numbers may look slightly thicker, almost like a shadow is following them. This is the result of a double die error, created when the coin design was misaligned during the minting process. Now check the edge and surface of the coin. The 1980 penny is copper-plated zinc, not solid copper like older pennies. That change created a whole new set of errors. Plating blisters, peeling copper, and bubbles under the surface are all things collectors look for. A close-up shot under bright light makes these flaws easy to spot. Here's a detail many people miss. If the copper plating is thin or damaged, you might see a grayish metal showing through. That's the zinc core. Coins with dramatic plating errors can be surprisingly collectible, especially when the flaw is obvious and original. Let me tell you a quick story. In 1980, the US Mint was pushing out massive numbers of coins to keep up with demand. Speed mattered more than perfection. And when speed takes over, mistakes happen. Those mistakes are exactly what collectors hunt for today. Before we talk value, here's a cliffhanger to keep in mind. Some 1980 pennies were struck slightly off-center. If part of the design is missing or shifted, that's not damage. That's a mint error, and those are the kinds of coins that stop collectors mid-scroll at auctions. Now let's talk real numbers. A worn 1980 penny in circulated condition is usually worth face value. A clean uncirculated example with good luster can sell for a few dollars. Verified double die examples and strong plating error coins have sold at auction for tens to hundreds of dollars, depending on how dramatic the error is. High-grade red examples certified by major grading services have reached auction prices in the low to mid three-figure range. These are real market results, not guesses. So now I want to hear from you. Do you own a 1980 penny? Have you ever seen a penny with peeling copper or strange bubbles on the surface? And which modern Lincoln penny do you think is the most underrated? The 1980 Lincoln penny proves that even modern coins can hide real value. You just have to slow down and look closely. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more hidden coin discoveries. And don't forget to watch the next video, because the next penny we're covering has fooled collectors for years. Coin 6. We are talking about a penny that caused chaos at the US Mint and still confuses collectors to this day. The 1982 Lincoln 1-cent coin is not just a penny. It's a turning point in American money, and depending on one tiny detail, it can be either completely ordinary or shockingly valuable. Give me a few minutes, because this coin has more versions, more surprises, and more collector interest than almost any modern penny. I'll show you how to spot the important differences, the rare mistakes that collectors hunt for, and at the end, I'll tell you what real buyers have actually paid for the right 1982 penny. Let's put the coin on screen. Start with a tight close-up of the front. You see Abraham Lincoln facing right, familiar as ever. The date reads 1982. Some coins have a D mint mark below the date, meaning Denver. Some have no mint mark at all, meaning Philadelphia. Right away, you're dealing with multiple versions of the same coin, and this is where the story gets interesting. Now here's the big twist. In 1982, the US Mint changed the metal inside the penny. For decades, pennies were mostly copper. But copper prices were rising fast, so the mint switched to a zinc core with a thin copper coating. That means in 1982, both copper pennies and zinc pennies were made at the same time. Same year. Same design. Completely different metal. This is where you bring in a simple scale on screen. A copper 1982 penny weighs about 3.1 grams. A zinc 1982 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. That tiny difference is one of the biggest clues collectors use. Two pennies can look identical, but their value can be worlds apart. Flip the coin over and show the Lincoln Memorial. The design looks the same, but the strike quality can be different. Some coins are sharp and bold. Others look flat and weak. Strong strikes are harder to find and more desirable. Now let's talk errors, because this is where things get exciting. Some 1982 pennies show doubled lettering on the date or the words "In God We Trust." A close-up with angled lighting helps reveal it. This isn't damage. This is a double die error from the minting process, and collectors love these. Here's a cliffhanger detail that keeps people hunting. A small number of 1982 pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchet. Imagine a penny that should be zinc but weighs like copper, or looks like copper but tests wrong. These off-metal errors are rare, and when confirmed, they become headline coins at auctions. Another thing to watch for is copper plating problems. Since zinc pennies have a thin copper layer, you might see bubbling, peeling, or gray metal showing through. Dramatic plating errors are very collectible when they're original and not damaged later. Let me ask you this. How many pennies from 1982 do you think you've already spent without ever weighing them? Most people never check, and that's why valuable examples still turn up today. Now let's talk real value, no hype. A normal circulated 1982 penny is usually worth face value. A clean uncirculated copper example can sell for a few dollars. Verified double die errors and off-metal mistakes have sold at auction for hundreds of dollars. The rarest confirmed error examples have reached auction prices in the low four-figure range, depending on condition and certification. These are documented sales, not rumors. So now it's your turn. Do you own any 1982 pennies? Have you ever weighed one? And which Lincoln penny do you think has the most secrets hiding in plain sight? The 1982 Lincoln penny proves that even the smallest coin can tell a huge story. Metal matters. Details matter. And sometimes, history fits right in your pocket. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe for more coin stories just like this. And don't forget to watch the next video, because the next penny we're covering has fooled collectors for decades.